Welcome everyone to our webinar today focusing on a strategy to meet the NARA 2019 and 2022 deadlines. Today's webinar is presented by our media along with our partners Alfresco, Carasoft, and Effisoft. We'll begin this morning with a brief overview of today's agenda and then move into some quick tips for today's webinar. For your information, today's webinar is being recorded. We'll start off with our tips. After that, we will move into a time of introductions, where I'll introduce both our media staff as well as our partner staff. After that, we will quickly have an overview of our media's capabilities and services, and then thereafter we'll have a demonstration of Alfresco. After the demonstration concludes, we'll have a question and answer session. I'd like to go ahead and provide some tips for today's webinar. Today's webinar, as I mentioned, is being recorded, and access to a recording of the webinar will be provided via email after the webinar concludes. In addition to the webinar video, we will also provide a copy of today's slides via email. You'll notice that a group chat is also available on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. This chat will be available throughout the webinar if you have any questions or require technical support. Please feel free to ask questions via chat throughout the webinar. The team and I will capture those questions for our Q&A session upon conclusion of today's demo. A friendly reminder, please ensure that your microphone is muted throughout the webinar. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our media staff presenters. Ms. Audrey Velasquez, our media's Vice President of Strategic Capture, has over 20 years of IT consulting experience in the federal and commercial markets, with expertise in the implementations of custom and off-the-shelf IT solutions. She will present an overview of our media and our partners' background and services. Ms. Deja Logan is our media's Record Management Specialist and a business analyst. She has over 11 years of experience working in records management, implementing Alfresco and ArcCase solutions from small firms to very large agencies. Deja is serving as our RM expert today and leading today's webinar demonstration. My name is Meryl Jordan. I am our media's Knowledge Transfer and Training Lead, and I will be your facilitator today. Before jumping into today's content, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our partner representatives. First, Ms. Jean Cameron from Alfresco. Jean serves as Alfresco's Worldwide Director of Field and Partner Marketing and runs Alfresco's Field and Partner Marketing teams. Open source and ECM is in her blood, as she has been with Alfresco for the past 8 years. Jean, would you like to say a word about Alfresco?
Sure, thank you. So Alfresco's got a product, Alfresco's Governance Services. It strengthens compliance by seamlessly integrating records management into business process and automating the complete record lifecycle. Alfresco is also the only open source solution that is DoD 5015.02 and 3 certified.
Thank you, Jean. Next, Ms. Brittany Stowe is a marketing coordinator with Carasoft and manages marketing campaigns with vendor partners. She also serves as a member of Carasoft's internal sales teams to drive lead generation, customer nurture, and brand awareness. Brittany, would you like to say a few words about Carasoft?
Sure. Carasoft is the trusted government IT solutions provider, a top-ranked GSA contract holder, master, and a government aggregator. Carasoft supports an ecosystem of the world's leading manufacturers, value-added resellers, system integrators, and consulting partners who help government agencies select and implement the best solution at the best value.
Thanks, Brittany. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Dan Champ serves as Effisoft's National Sales Manager, helping clients to achieve the highest level of value by transforming unstructured data into structured data for use within RPA, AI, and RM systems. Dan?
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Dan Champ, National Sales Manager. Effisoft is a OCR solution used for ingesting documents into your record management system, and as Meryl mentioned, making sense out of unstructured data and turning it into structured data.
Thanks, Dan. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Audrey Velasquez.
Thank you, Meryl, and thank you for joining us. We're very glad that you're here for this webinar to talk about how we can help you meet the NARA deadlines for 2019 and 2022. I will take a few minutes to talk a little bit about our media, and then we'll talk about the services and solutions that your organizations need in order to comply with the NARA mandates and regulations. So first, about our media. Our media is founded in 2002, and we're about 125 employees composed of seasoned functional and technical subject matter experts. Our base operations are in the DC metro area with offices in Atlanta, Georgia, Vero Beach, Florida, and in Macedonia. We are veteran-owned and minority-owned small business with CMMI Level 3 appraisal and ISO 9001 certification. So with these industry certifications, we offer our customers lower risk because we use a delivery framework that has repeatable processes that are annually audited by third-party organizations. What this all means to you is that we ensure best practices and quality management processes. We apply them in all our engagements and in our operations. For over 16 years in supporting the public and private sectors, our media has developed strong partnerships with industry leaders such as Alfresco, Effisoft, and Carasoft. Finally, for government customers that had security requirements, we offer a top-secret facility clearance with over 30 cleared employees. Over the years, we have also obtained numerous awards from our partners, such as the Alfresco Federal Partner of the Year, and industry awards such as the Stevie Award for Best Website for the WELL Project. So over the years of supporting organizations in their modernization initiatives, we saw a common trend in what organizations need, and we saw organizations keep on reinventing the wheel when there have been proven solutions that can address their business objectives and goals. So based on this market observation, we developed our solution enablers to help organizations in achieving faster return of investment by decreasing time to achieve value. So first is ArcCase. ArcCase is an IT modernization and case management platform that provides a configurable framework used to accelerate the implementation of business solutions. With full capabilities to help your organization in its digital transformation, it provides scanning, digitization through Effisoft, document and records management, and workflow through Alfresco. It also offers case management, analytics, reports, dashboard, task management, and correspondence management. ArcCase also offers specific case management modules such as FOIA or Public Records Management, investigative case management, complaints management, and legal case management. As an example, we implemented ArcCase for the World Health Organization's Pan American Health Organization, for which ArcCase is used for their MDSAP program. It's known as PAHO, and they're using it for their medical device single audit program, which is the MDSAP program. MDSAP program is a collaborative international effort to improve the safety and oversight of products like pacemakers and the X-ray machines. Under this program, the medical device manufacturers from different parts of the world can be audited once to satisfy the regulatory requirements of multiple countries. And the 5 participating countries include Australia, Brazil, Canada, Japan, and the United States. Our second solution enabler addresses migration, which is almost always a need in modernization initiatives to move from legacy applications. Our media offers Caliente. Caliente is a bulk content migration framework that allows shorter time and lower risks associated in migrating your mission-critical information. So an example of this for which we have used Caliente is for the Office of Personnel Management, or OPM, for which we migrated over 600 million objects from Oracle ECM to Alfresco. Finally, our third solution enabler is the Media Content Cloud, which is a FedRAMP moderate content services platform. It leverages ArcCase, Effisoft, and Alfresco, and it's hosted in AWS. Our Media Content Cloud provides organizations with lower total cost of ownership and substantially shortens the implementation time and lowers the organization's risks. The FedRAMP compliance ensures overall NIST security compliance for the infrastructure and applications components. FedRAMP certification allows your organization a shorter period of time in their certification and accreditation, making it quicker to obtain an authority to operate, or ATO. One of our customers on our Media Content Cloud is the Postal Regulatory Commission, or the PRC, who is also our FedRAMP sponsor. The PRC is using the full capabilities of their Media Content Cloud, which includes our case, Alphasoft, and Alfresco. They're using it for their e-dockets and their enterprise records management system. So now that I've given you an overview of our media and our capabilities, I want to go back to the goal of our webinar. The goal for this webinar is to learn about the services and solutions required to implement a holistic electronic records management per NARA statutes, regulations, and guidance. And secondly, to learn about contracting vehicles your organization can use for an effective and efficient acquisition of RM services and solutions. But I also want to acknowledge that we have webinar attendees who are from state and local government or higher education institutes and the private sector. Although this webinar talks about mainly the federal agency requirements, please note that most of what we're presenting are still relevant with your records management or governance needs, especially during the Alfresco solution demonstration, where you can learn more about the capabilities of Alfresco. All right, and so we'll talk about the services that you need now in this goal toward NARA compliance, or in your goal toward records management or governance management for your digital transformation. So what are these services? First, we understand that you have paper and electronic records. To move towards a complete digital records management world, you need to review your existing records policies and align them to your records schedules. Along with this, you also need to do a records inventory. All of these documentation will need to be submitted by your records officers to NARA for approval. Our media offers the records management expertise and experience to assist your organization with these activities. Our RM experts are knowledgeable with NARA regulations and guidance and have supported many organizations such as the FBI, PRC, and the USDA. Second, let's go back to paper. With NARA 2022 deadline, which is when NARA will no longer accept paper records, Alphasoft is a component that our records management solution use to allow organizations to scan and digitize your paper records to digital format. We also offer scanning services for organizations with the need for either a day-forward and ongoing scanning services approach, digital conversion, or backfile services. Our scanning services include shipping, storage, preparation of paper records, indexing and quality control, reconstitution, and disposition in a secured facility. Example customers include the DC Public Defender Service, the CFPB, HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, and the USDA. Finally, your organization needs an electronic records management solution implementation services. The full implementation lifecycle includes requirements gathering, design, development, and deployment. For the most part, the GSA NARA has developed the Universal ERM Requirements Framework that agencies can use to get them started. Agencies can review them and use the requirements that are relevant to them. Our media can help you in prioritizing those requirements, and will apply those in the configuration of Alfresco. As for the design and development, we can skip these stages because solutions like Alfresco is designed and built per NARA DoD 5015.2 and 5015.3 solution requirements. So we know the required RM capabilities are already there. For some agencies, they need to integrate the ERM with the mission-critical applications. Our media will use Alfresco's API to provide full integration capabilities so that we can automate the records classification and disposition behind the scenes without the end user worrying about it. We also offer training, not just for Alfresco, but also for the annual RM training required by NARA. Finally, we offer system operations and maintenance of Alfresco, either on-premise or on the cloud. We are currently doing this for the National Science Foundation, the IRS, and PRC. The last point I'd like to make is the second goal of this webinar, which is finding out about the contracting vehicles available to you. As part of the GSA and NARA's collaborative effort to make it easier for agencies to acquire the services and solutions they need to manage electronic records, GSA created a special item number, or a SIN. It's 51600 for electronic records management in Schedule 36. Our media offers our services in our Schedule 36 contract, while Carahsoft, our partner, offers Alfresco in their contracting vehicle. For state and local and educational institutes, in addition to Schedule 36, our media solutions and services are also available via NASPO. NASPO is the National State Procurement Officials, which is a cooperative contracting vehicle. Very much like Schedule 70 and 36, NASPO provides organizations a streamlined acquisition process because they have vetted the capabilities of the vendors in this program. So now that I've given you an overview of services and solutions and the available contracting vehicles for streamlined acquisition process, now you're ready for a solution demo, and I'll pass it on to Deja. Thank you so much.
All right. So thank you very much, Aji. So like Meryl said, my name is Deja Logan, and I'm a business analyst and a records management specialist here at our media. I've been working with implementing solutions using Alfresco's records management tools since 2009. So I've definitely had my fun share with Alfresco and putting NARA solutions and business requirements and workflows into Alfresco's records management tools. So what I wanted to show today is not something that I see a lot of demos about. So I wanted to put together an example life cycle of a document turning into a record in Alfresco and how it's seamlessly scheduled with the retention policies. So it gives you a bit of a full life cycle here. And basically, I'll just walk through the diagram. So we have the Universal Electronic Requirements Management categories up top here. So these are the basic, very high-level life cycles. You've got capture, there's metadata maintenance and use, transfer, disposition, or disposal, and then you've got reporting at the end. So that's just the high-level concept of a life cycle, but I wanted to give you more of an example and show it to you within Alfresco. Basically, Alfresco can help you with these upcoming mandates in many, many different ways. It all just depends on your agency's specific requirements. So what I'm going to show you today is one specific example, and this can be changed and modified based on your own business rules. This is just to give you a real-life example of what a detailed life cycle can be about. So we're going to start with capture and ingestion. So the different ways of getting things into Alfresco greatly vary. So I'm just giving you a few of the common used ones. You can have direct email, where you've got email either mapping directly automatically into Alfresco. You can also manually drag and drop content into Alfresco. You can have different UIs from the desktop. We've got, desktop connector type UIs that if people are more used to the folder structures there, you can just add content that way. There's direct upload, direct drag and drop, and many different ways. One of the most popular ways, especially now that we've got these mandates coming up, where we need to get everything electronic, is Episoft. So Episoft is an AI-based supervised machine learning tool that can read ingested documents. This smart capture technology goes far beyond just regular OCR, and it can accelerate your processing time by 80%. One very helpful feature here is that it can add in metadata before it even hits the target library, and that's just from the process of scanning it in. And this is just extremely helpful when you're trying to get everything into an electronic format into the system so that you can put the records management controls and the compliance and transfers to NARA and everything electronically. So it actually speeds up that entire process a lot. So that's probably one of the most popular ingestion tools of getting everything in, especially for the upcoming mandates. So then we've got the concept of we need metadata. So once the content is in the system, I'm going to kind of go over today of how I set up some automatic metadata so that the system automatically adds certain metadata, and that's based on business rules, and how you can also add the metadata manually if you need to. Then in this particular life cycle, I'm going to show that at some point, the project documentation, which is our example today, is going to need to come to an end. The project will close out, and it's going to need an approval process to make sure that it can be approved for archival or records management processes. And then upon approval, several things are going to happen. The documents are going to be declared as records, and the records management team is going to get notified. And then from that point on, it'll become over into the records management world in Alfresco, and you'll have record-specific metadata that gets automatically added and manually added. And then at some point, it'll become eligible for disposition. And then we're going to walk through the whole disposition process of what a records manager would do in Alfresco. So there's a disposition approval workflow, there's the actual destroying of the content, and then I'll show you the transfers. So instead of destroying the content, I'll show you a transfer and how that will work, and then we'll do the reporting at the end. And then last but not least, we also have ArcCase down here, which I know Aji talked quite a bit about. But basically, if your requirements specify the need for more of a case management system, like Aji was explaining, you can use a tool like ArcCase. So that's the high level of what we're going to go over today. So let's go ahead and jump in. So when you first come to Alfresco, the first thing you're going to see is your dashboard. And it gives you some interesting things that you might want to see on a daily basis. Maybe your favorite documents or the documents you've been recently working on, the different activities in the system. These are all configurable. So if you don't see something that you need here, there's a set of ones that are out of the box, and then there's a set of ones that you can create. So, but this is your dashboard. And then just high level here, we have an area for My Files. This is typically things that are not necessarily records, and they may not particularly belong to a certain library, but these are your own, an area for you as a user. So if I wanted to keep notes, maybe some templates I've been collecting, things for you. And then on the opposite side, we've got the shared files area. And I'm just kind of walking you through a quick high level of the Alfresco share interface here. Now the shared files is pretty much the opposite, where you've got, you want a space where anybody who has access to the system can come here. So you might have like finance forms or HR forms that pretty much everybody needs access to. So you have this as available as well. And I'm going to just kind of skip through the most important points here. We've got different sites. So these are like different libraries, different collaboration areas. It could be for a department. It could be for a division, or maybe a certain project. Like today, we're just going to do a project. ECM is Enterprise Content Management. So we're just going to do an ECM project example today. You also have tasks. So if somebody or yourself assigned you a task to do, you can keep charge of your tasks. You can also create workflows. There's many workflows that you can start out of the box. And if you have Alfresco processing services, you can also just create your own workflow. And then we have people. So if you wanted to see who all is in the system, you have the repository, which is everything that you have access to. And then over here, we have my profile and logging out, things like that. And then up in the top right, we have a search. There we go. All right, and this is what the search page looks like. And you can have these are some of the out-of-the-box filters, but you can also customize these. So if you need specific filters, you can create your own. So that is pretty much the high level walkthrough of Alfresco. So now I want to get into the sites. So we're going to go to our ECM project site here. So the ECM project site, this is where all the collaboration for this project is going to occur. It has been deemed in my little example company here that this is the single source repository for all the content with regards to this ECM project. So users who have access to this site, they are here to collaborate on this project and get this project done. And so all sites will have a dashboard. So as you can see here, we've got a dashboard here. This is the content that is going on in the site, maybe some site activity. You can also have a site calendar and different notifications and things like that, different discussions or wikis. Then we've got the document library. Now this is where the documents are actually held. So they're going to collaborate on all the content here. They're going to add their content here in this folder structure. And there's different things. You've got different filters on the side and the tree structure here. And like I said, calendar, you can have a calendar for the site. Many other aspects like a wiki and things like that that we're not going to go over because of time. But then we have site members. You can see who's a member of the site and what their access levels are, etc. So I'm signed in as a project contributor, and that user, the main purpose for this user is to add content and be able to edit their own content and things like that. They don't have full reign of the project site, but they do have the ability to come in and collaborate. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to add some correspondence here. And I'm just going to do a little drag and drop here. Grab some things and add them in. Now, another way to go about this, I'm going to bring over Outlook here real quick. I can also add content straight from Outlook. I have things connected up here. It's called the Alfresco Outlook connector. And I want to add content directly to the site here, so I can just go ahead and grab it, take it over to my correspondence folder, and drop it in. So earlier I said you can actually map things so that it's automatically all going. So especially if you have a capstone approach, you know, things can be done on the back end all automatically. But certain circumstances may need users to manually drag and drop content straight into the site from their Outlook. So that's another way that you can go. All right, and there's my emails that I just added in. Okay, good. So now we have our content in here. I'm going to show you just one document here. All right. So don't worry, this is fake information. This is not actually someone's information. It is all just demo information. I just wanted to show you all the document actions that you can do. You've got being able to edit this, move it, copy, starting a workflow, if I need to start a workflow. You can also have document types and things like that. You can declare it manually as a record. I'm going to show more of an automated declaring of a record for this project, but if you needed to declare something immediately upon ingestion, you can do that too. You can also declare versions as records. You can set up auto declare options for this document as well. We're going to scroll down to the properties. Now these properties here, there is a lot of properties that are already available to you out of the box. I'm only showing a little bit here. There is, you know, Alfresco is very rich in metadata. So whether it's Dublin core you need or any other thing that you could possibly think of, Alfresco's got it. However, there are specific information that you want to add. Like for instance, I did this. I added these project start date, the project number, and the project name. So this is specific to this site. This is not for, you know, HR or finance. This is for project documentation. So when I created a site for project documentation, I wanted to be able to add certain metadata automatically so that as soon as it gets ingested in, I can add it automatically. And I can have this either editable or I can have it locked down so that users can't edit it. If I wanted to let them edit, they can edit the properties here. And then we have the properties that come up. And they can edit whatever they need to if they needed to, you know, add some information here, or we could keep it to where they can't add this information, you know, however your business rules are, and we'll just save that. So you've got content coming in, automatically, you know, important metadata being automatically added to that content. And then also wanted to show, we're going to go into the correspondence folder. So we put this content into this particular folder. So we're going to go into the back end for this folder. Now you can also do very similar things on the folder that this content is in. And one of the things I wanted to show you is managing the rules. So there's rules on this particular folder that are adding information to it and also moving it to an exact spot if it got declared as a record. So I wanted to show you just, high level of these rules, because one little plug here is that I'm a business analyst. I am not a developer. I'm not an architect. I do not know how to code or write scripts. Everything that you're going to see here today was all done by me. I was able to, and I have been working with Alfresco for a while because I understand and I've been trained on the system, but I just wanted to show you, how easy some of these things are and that the tools are there to put them together. Once you understand what your life cycle needs to be, the tools are there and you can put them together even with my level of knowledge. So I've got these rules on the folder, letting the system know, okay, when things come into this correspondence folder, this is what I want you to do with it. And there are lots of different types of rules, which unfortunately due to time, I can't go over all of them today. Okay, so we've got the correspondence folder. We're going to go back to it real quick. You also have metadata that you can put on the correspondence folder as well. So you've got different types of objects. You've got the document itself and you've got folders. You can do both permissions on documents, permissions on folders, adding metadata to folders. So for instance, if I edited the properties of this folder, it's got the project information here as well, which I did that by design because I want both the folder and the content itself to have this metadata. Okay, so going back to our concept of the site, we've got lots of collaboration happening now. So we've got this project, it's roaring, it's going through maybe approvals, maybe some of this content needs to be approved, maybe it needs to be converted to PDF, maybe it needs to be published to a site. All of these things are actually possible, but we want to move on in our life cycle. And let's just say that at this point in time, this project has been closed out. So everything on this site needs to become a record. So what we're going to do is we're going to log out as the project contributor, and we're going to log back in as the project manager. So the project manager has a little bit more options here, but really what we're going to do is we're going to receive word as the project manager that this project is closed out. Oops, sorry about that. And that we need to now get approval. So as a part of our life cycle, per project documentation, for our example company here, they require that they get an approval from the director of project management. So what I can do is I can just create a workflow. And due to time today, I'm not going to go through the whole workflow, but I could just get a workflow going, fill out the information, send it to the director of project management with attaching all of the evidence showing that this has been basically has been closed out. And then upon approval of this workflow, so let's say it goes to the director of project management, he agrees that this project needs to be closed out. And upon approval, what's going to happen is the content is going to move from one area to the other. And I will show you just an example here. We're going to select the active folders. These are the active folders. I'm just showing you the manual way. And we're going to move it to the archived project folders. All right. So now let's go into our archived area. And there are rules in the archived folder behind the scenes that are basically telling the system again what needs to happen when things come into this folder. We're notifying the records management team and we're declaring them and we're moving them to the records management site. Now, one thing I like about Alfresco is that the users can still access their content in this environment, on this site. So even though they're records now, they still have access to this, to this site. So they can come here, and even though these records are actually being held in the records management site, they're mirrored over here on the content side. So they can still access the content, because just because something is a record doesn't mean these people don't need to access the content anymore. So here's a little indication here that it's been turned into a record now. And you also see per DoD 5015.2, you see the record number. And we're going to go ahead and open this up and we're still on the ECM Project site. All right, so we're going to scroll down here. Actually, I'm going to show you up top. I don't know if you remember, we had a huge list of actions that we could do before. But now that it's an official record per records management best practices, there's a lot less that I can do with this record now. There's not many actions, and because I'm a manager, I can do more than the average user. So the average user may not even see all this. So we're going to scroll down here, look at the metadata. And automatically the metadata for the retention schedule and some custom properties that I've created for records are automatically added. So we've got the schedule information and the record ID information and some custom properties here. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to log out and we're going to see everything on the records management side. So we're going to log in as the records manager. And now we're going to go to the records management site. Okay, so very similar to the other sites, you've got a site dashboard, and all of these dashboards for these different sites are all customizable, and they can have different colors and have different things shown. So you'll see different dashboards in different places. But this site has a lot of different features. So instead of a document library, we're going to have a file plan. And we also have a record search area. We'll wait for it to catch up. There we go. All right, so here's the file plan. And then we have a record search. We also can have basic other site features like calendar, wiki, lists, and things like that. But we also have here site members as well. And then we also have here the RM admin tools, which no other site has. And I'll get into that here in a minute. All right, so the file plan, this is where all the records are going to come to live out the rest of their life cycle. This is, as soon as they come here, they are official records, and they will get the automatic record metadata, and you can also put your own custom metadata on them. You can also manually add metadata if you need to, but this is where the rest of that life cycle is going to be lived out. As you can see, I have a basic made-up retention schedule here with my different categories. I've got human resources, administration, finance, and I've got my project documentation here. So the project site that we were just on, that content, as soon as two things happen, it'll come to this area. One, if somebody manually declares it as a record. So like I said earlier, if you wanted to manually just hit declare as record as soon as it's ingested into the system, you can do that. Or if you want it to be automatically done via rules, like we showed, moving it to that archive folder, and everything in that archive folder, boom, automatically became records based on the rules behind the scenes. So one of those two things has to happen, but because of the rules I put in place, they are mapped directly to this folder here. So users don't have to go, oh, what section of the retention schedule does this go to? Or, you know, they don't have to worry about that. Someone like me, the records manager, has already worked and collaborated with the project team, the project manager, to set up the rules and the connection between these two sites so that nobody else has to worry about it. Once it's set up, then the content just comes here directly. So I'll just go ahead and open it up and show you. Here's our different projects throughout the years. We've got our ECM project. And here's all of our content that we mapped over today. So it's all just sitting here, ready for its next step. Now, basically the next step being, oops. Let me just show you one thing. I wanted to show you that the Records Manager has a few important notifications here, but I set it up to where I got a notification letting me know that, okay, good, so this content has been sent over to you. It's ready for records management rules, which is good because in this particular example, we don't have time to wait for this retention schedule to take place. So for instance, let's take a look at the retention schedule. So to do that, we need to go to this level here, which is the category. There's two different types of folders here in the records site, and we've got a category which holds the retention schedule, and you've got a folder which holds the content. So here's a basic schedule, and we have some high-level information, the authority, things like that. And then we've got cutoff at end of fiscal year as the first step, and then destroy after 6 years. So this is the made-up schedule for this particular example today, and I can go ahead and show you really briefly the steps here. There's a lot you can do with it. You can do a period of time, and you can also do an event. So since we don't have time in this webinar to wait to the end of the fiscal year, I added an event so that we could manually move it along. And so you have lots of different events here, you know, as needed. You can also edit and change the name of these events to suit your schedule. So let's go ahead and put this thing into action. All right, so now let's say we wait until the end of the fiscal year. And that's when ECM Project 2012, that's when this content is ready to be cut off. So since we don't have time for automatic, like I said, we're just gonna do it manually. So here's our event right here. And this is what we went. We went into the ECM Project folder. We know that at the end of the fiscal year, which is, let's say right now, that it's time. So we're gonna complete this event. It's going to give you a timestamp. And then there we go. So now it's eligible for cutoff. So we're going to cut it off. Now, one of my favorite ways to go about this is actually using the record search or the file plan filter. So I'll show you those two real quick. The record search has a lot of out-of-the-box searches already ready for you as soon as you implement, get things rolling. And one of them is eligible for cutoff, and one of them is eligible for destruction. We should have some things here. Okay, good. So yeah, the other one is coming. It takes a few minutes sometimes to show up in the report, but you have lots of criteria to choose from, and you also have the ability to have a saved search. So if you have a specific search you do a lot, kind of like a report, then you can save it here. We're going to do another one here. Let's do destruction. Okay, we have a few things for destruction as well. And I'm going to go back to search results to show you some of the things. I have added some custom metadata that I want to see show up in the search results. So I'm just going to select all of them here. So you can also customize what you see in your search results. You want to know who the custodian is or the data owner is. And that's very handy, especially when you're destroying things. And then the file plan itself has a very similar concept where you can actually filter out the file plan in order to see the records that are eligible for cutoff. And it's basically the saved searches, but in a different view. So we have HR records, those are eligible. And these are eligible for destruction. All right, so getting back to our project documentation, let's go back and finish the job. So all we did was cut it off. Here's our little indication here that it's been cut off, and the folder has been closed out now. Now, if I wanted to, I can also undo the cutoff, but we're gonna move forward. All right, so the next event that's eligible will be eligible for destruction. So since we don't have time to wait 6 years, like our schedule says, we're gonna go ahead and complete the event so we can push it through for our demo. All right, so now it's eligible for destruction. So at this point, we can just hit destroy. It'll ask you, are you sure? Are you for sure, for sure? And we say yes. and then it gets destroyed. So now your folder looks like this. And you've got the icons here for destruction. And we're going to go into this folder, and you can see the icons have changed. We're going to go into this document. And the document has no content, which is exactly what we wanted. So you can see all of the properties here. You can see all the information. It shows that this document used to exist, but it has been destroyed. This is very helpful. On all levels, you can see an audit log of the document. You can see a destruction report for the document, or we can come out and we can actually see a destruction report for the entire folder, which is a little more useful, I think. So the destruction report will generate a destruction report, and I want to file it in my destruction report area here of the file plan. And here's my destruction reports for 2019. Very helpful for auditing. Now, one thing that I didn't show was the destruction workflow, and that's partially due to time. But let's say we come over to the record search here, and we see things that are eligible for destruction. Now, I can get this information out. I can print the layout, or I can export it out, and I can actually add it to a workflow. So like very similar to the workflow where we talked about putting the content on the workflow and sending it out. And here, especially if I have my report results, I know who the data owner is, so I know who needs to see this report of what's eligible for destruction. So I can send this out to the director of project management and put it on a little workflow and say, I need you to approve this to be destroyed. And then you have your evidence now that you got approval for this destruction, and get that destruction certificate that you need. And you can do it that way. So due to time, I didn't want to get into the whole flow, but obviously it's very important that you get your destructions approved before you go through that process. All right, so the next one, make sure we're doing good on time. Okay, I need to wrap up soon, but the next one I wanted to show was the transfers. So up here we have a schedule for transfers, and we have a few icons here showing that this one has already been transferred. And then we're going to go ahead and transfer these guys here. So it looks like this one's already eligible for transfer. You can also do a very similar schedule where you've got, actually, I'll just show you this schedule real quick. You've got cutoff at the end of the fiscal year and transfer after 5 years. So this is a very basic schedule. Very simple. We'll go back into the folder here. And the steps are very similar. So this one has already been cut off, and it is now eligible for transfer. So, and then when we hit the transfer button, let's see, this is HR records number 3. So we're going to hit the transfer button. So now basically what this means is that per the schedule, this content is ready to go to NARA, or maybe you have another transfer location, but it's ready to go to its transfer location. And over here in the file plan, we have a separate location for all of the things that need to be transferred, so you can track them separately. So we've got the transfers area here. And we have these 2 transfers that need to be transferred to NARA. So at this point in time, I have several things that I can do. I can download all of this in a zip and add it to a CD, add it to, if I need to do a FTP. There are several different ways that you can get this content into the ERA. And you can have whatever metadata that you need for the ERA. For instance, we already have, I'm going to open this up. So you can have the metadata that you need on this folder so that when you are transferring this information off to a format that NARA accepts, you can upload it to ERA, which is NARA's system, and for getting content into their electronic repositories, right? So you're going to have some back and forth between the ERA system and Alfresco, where you can have your evidence and your metadata that you need in order to show that you got approval from ERA and things like that. You can all keep them here in Alfresco. So you download this content, go back to transfers, you download the content if you don't have it set up for FTP, let's say onto CD or drive of some kind that you're sending to NARA. And they have the metadata that they need. They get their acceptance. They give you their acceptance, and then you can move forward from there. And once that's done, and you have you have full evidence that it's a completed transfer, then you can complete the transfer here. And then you also have the options of, so that it comes off of this area so that you know, okay, that transfer is completed. It doesn't necessarily go away from here though, unless you tell the system that's what you want. So you can have it both ways. You can either keep the content within Alfresco until another certain amount of time, or have another step of destroy after a certain amount of time. So you have options there as well. So I'll go ahead and wrap up. We've got holds, the holds area, and then the records management tools, which you can basically, that's where I was making my own metadata for the records management site. But yep, we can go ahead and wrap up there. And that concludes my demo. Thank you.
Thank you, Deja. I'll pass over to Audrey to wrap up. I'd like to quickly summarize what we learned about how your agency can meet the NARA 2019 and 22 deadlines. First, we learned about the services and solution required to implement an electronic records management per NARA requirement. We learned about the services your organization would need to plan and implement an ERM. And we talked about the solution components. So first, to meet the NARA 2019 deadline, which is when all federal agencies need an electronic records management system, we demonstrated Alfresco for the electronic records management component. And then we also talked about how your organization can meet the NARA 2022 deadline, which is when NARA will stop accepting paper records. With this, we talked about how Effisoft can help in the capture and digitization of your paper records, and how our scanning services can help you with your backfile conversion. And finally, we learned about the contracting vehicles your organizations can use for an effective and efficient streamlined acquisition of the RM services and solution. Our services and solutions are available via GSA 36 schedule and the NASPO. So with this, I'll pass it on to Meryl.
Thanks so much, Audrey.
If you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to us at sales@ourmedia.com. Thank you so much for joining this webinar.